They didn't apply. They just want them to be in your classroom. I said, okay. So anyway, from that moment, less than 20 the first year, this year I have 60 students. In the fall, there will be 91 students taking Chinese. So anyway, I just want to thank you very much for bringing the Chinese language to the table. I know Scott did a lot of work, but it's not an easy one. And after my first year to end, I talked to my students, first group. I said, well, tell me something, why you decide to take Chinese? And one student shared me his story. He said, one day I went home and told my father, I said, Father, I'm going to take Chinese in the fall. And he said, my dad looked at me startled and said, son, you take Chinese. Are you planning to work in a Chinese restaurant? so that's about it. I thought this is great. And one day I asked one of my students who whose parents have a restaurant in Harwich. I said, bring me some menu. I want to show the menu to the kids. They can order the food. To my surprise, the menu came to me. There's no one word of Chinese. I said, I have been in this country for 26 years. This is the very first time I hold a menu with no Chinese in it. So I just want to let you know that the kids truly had a great time, and they are expanding their vision of the world. And in April next year, right now there's 9 students signed up for China trip, and I know that there will be more students sign up. So I know the students won't be able to thank you in person, but I just want to stand here and on behalf of all my students to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You did a wonderful thing for the kids, and they will just want to thank you very much for this. So, thank you. I have something for you too. Where's my... Do you have another minute?
Sure.
Okay. Probably want to listen to all my experience, but I won't. I just focus on 2. Number 1 experience, that's working in a public school. I have no clue. So one of the time, my first year, I have people come to visit me from all over the country and also abroad. I said, okay, it's a long weekend. I take them to Chatham to show off. Little do I know that actually you have this wired, although I have a card, but I cannot go into the building. So when I approaching the building, I still see a policeman standing there, but I didn't even pay attention. So I walked in my classroom, and we just have a wonderful time chatting. And all of a sudden, the policeman showed up to my door. He said, I want to know who set up the silent alarm. And I immediately walked there. I said, well, sir, I didn't really hear any alarm. He said, ma'am, it's a silent alarm. And they have to call the custodian. And in the end, I have to really give him a $25 gift card for get him to the school on his vacation day. So that's number 1. So I didn't really know. Number 2, when I teach at the middle school last year, and I find the students don't really do their homework. So the 5th graders, particularly in languages, they don't have to have a homework. So French, Spanish, Latin, all a grade, no homework sent to the kids. And here I am saying, no, if you are students, you must have homework. 5 minutes, I want you to do it. And then they said, why you have to have a homework? I said, because I'm Chinese. You know what? The Chinese kids, they're all doing homework. If you don't do homework, boy, you're going to be left behind. You're taking Chinese, you do homework. So anyway, one day, there's a little boy, 5th grader, and he was not in my classroom. It's the last class of the day. And I thought that he was not in school. He's somewhere else. So 5 minutes before the school end, one student said, Miss Cao, I want to go to the bathroom. I said, go ahead. So he rushed back. He said, so-and-so is in the bathroom. I said, what? The whole class time and he's in the bathroom. He said, he probably afraid of you yelling at him and he didn't really do his homework. I said, my God, I make the 5th grader so terrified. So anyway, I sent the kids to get the 5th grader, a boy, And they come back and said, no, he doesn't want to come out. I said, okay. So I ran to the door. I used to work at an all-boys school, and I don't want to touch the bathroom door. So, so you can imagine, I go there, I kicked it so hard and put it right here. I said, so you came out. I said, oh, I'm washing my hand. I said, you wash your hand? You have such a small hand. You're only 5th grader. Come out. Otherwise, I'm going to drag you. So anyway, the little boy came out. And meanwhile, I wrote an email to the assistant principal because I want to report. And the next day, I will be here. Last year, I was 1 day here, 1 day there. So when I saw Sean Fleming, I said, Sean, did you get my email? And he said, oh, Jenny, we have a good laugh. You are kicking the door so hard. I said, what? He said, well, we watched, they have this camera everywhere. At my old school, there's no camera to capture me. So now I learned that I better behave because I'm one of the kind. If I'm doing something wrong, boy, I have nowhere to go. So anyway, looking back, there are many wonderful moments. I just truly enjoyed each day working here. And with the good start of the Chinese program, and I want to thank Scott and his teams, although it's only 2-year-old school, but I feel so much wonderful energy in this school, and also the administrator teams, they're just fantastic, and I want to thank you for that. Scott didn't really ask me to say anything, and nobody asked me to say anything, but I bring myself here because I know this is my moment. I want to thank each one of you for supporting us, the teachers, and also, most importantly, the kids. So thank you. I'm sure when you're having a meeting like this, you might feel tired, might sleepy. After the day, I bring you coffee. So this coffee candy you can pass around. Thank you. Yeah. Have a great summer, everybody.
I just wanted to say there's no surprise why your program grew to 90.
That's right.
You're just so lovely and funny and wonderful and warm, and we thank you for all that you've brought here in your 2 years, and you will sorely be missed.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Jenny, Mr. Chair, I'd like to echo what Amy just said. In baseball parlance, the leadoff hitter usually is the guy with the best eye for the pitch, a very fast runner, powerful hitter, and you've been our leadoff hitter for this Chinese program, and you possessed all of those skills. So, Jenny, we appreciate you saying yes 2 years ago. You certainly have hit a home run for us.
Well, thank you so much. And if you really want to thank me, I want to give that back to Scott because he's the one who gave me the job and have the faith in me and being trusted in such a great way. I cannot really thank him enough. And for much is given, much is expected. And all these 2 years, every single one people I encountered on this campus, they truly touched my heart. So once the heart touched, and then there's going to be something to give back. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Before you go.
Yes.
And I guess just a thanks. And on one level, I was driving my daughter to school today, and she knows that Miss Gao is going to be moving on, and that somebody else will be coming. And I was asking her, so what language do you want to study a year from now when you get to the high school? And from her experience with Miss Gao and how much she inspired my daughter in Mandarin, she's like, I'm going to take Chinese. It's like, I don't care who the teacher is. I'm going to take Chinese. But in terms of the teacher, I also want to thank Jenny a lot for her help in helping us find another great Mandarin teacher who'll be coming to join us, and we'll go meet her in the fall. But we had a lot of success in finding someone who has very large shoes to fill. But I know that the Mandarin program's in good hands. So thank you.
Thank you. I only wear shoes 6. But thank you so much for giving me the time. I really appreciate it. And another thing is that if in the future any Any of you need me to help out, and if I'm around, I will do so, free of charge, because this is a wonderful school. It's like a family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Next item on the agenda is recognitions. Mr. Carpenter?
It's the end of the year. There's so many things that you could recognize, just even if we focus on Monday, a snapshot of just Monday evening. I had a meeting that I was at, but concurrently there was 4 different wonderful things, each happening in each of our schools. In Sam's Building at Harwich Elementary School, Tim Ressler was having a fantastic concert going on there. Mark Wilson at the middle school was hosting an evening of excellence and really celebrating great things that a number of our students have been doing over the years. And in Robbins Building, there was the finest talent that Chatham Elementary can muster amongst the students going on. And at the high school here was just the Spring Sports Awards ceremony, and all the spring athletes and their parents gathered together. And so that's just sort of a microcosm of what was happening on one night as we close out the year. But there's so many wonderful things going on. I also just want to thank and acknowledge 2 entities for their support of the concession stand. We had the Harwich Firefighting Association donated $500 towards the concession stand, and attorney William Crowell donated $50 towards the concession stand. So it is moving forward quickly. I met yesterday. We had our now 3rd meeting of the Booster Club, or the All Sports Booster Club, and we have today put in an order for the trusses, or the triangular pieces that hold up the roof for the concession stand have been ordered, and we have a build date just about a month from now that we'll start framing it and moving forward. So lots of things happening fast, even though we're in those waning days of the year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next item on the agenda under reports and discussions. The first item is Howard Elementary Improvement Plan.
All right, good evening, everyone. Sam Hine, Building Principal at Harwich Elementary School. And thank you for being patient with me. Try to save the best for last. But at the same time, I know that my colleagues, have done yeoman's job in trying to present their school improvement plans. And one of my personal goals is always to be as succinct, as brief as possible. So I have proof right here in case I go too far. It's a 1-pager, and hopefully this evening will be as short as it can be and yet effective. A number of years ago, we got together and actually had our first joint council meetings, and one of the outcomes out of that was that we would, in some fashion, calibrate or align our school improvement plans. And pleased to say that not only have we adopted a consistent template, but as you will see, the HES and the CES plans have a lot of consistencies. The 4 focus areas, instruction, communication, curriculum, and wellness, along with their goals and objectives, have been aligned almost exactly. Want to thank my colleague, Dr. Millen, for her background in research, and also the due diligence of the Chatham Council for their heavy lifting, as I called it, because they did a lot of the work ahead of us. They presented first and gave our council an opportunity to calibrate where we were and where we want to go, at the same time having a document that was a living, breathing, and approved document and a great template to follow. So on one hand, even though we had as a council a slow start between some staff parent representatives becoming teachers, some staff and parents having to step aside for personal reasons, we did get a very strong group up and running in late spring, and we got right away started looking at our plans in the past and this current plan from Chatham, and going through each objective and through each focus area and through each goal to see if it aligned in any way with ours. And I'm pleased to say, with some few edits, for example, principal's responsible for this in Chatham. The administrative team would be responsible for it in Harwich. A few details, the improvement plan relative to the playground in Chatham is a little bit more detailed. The details are a little different than in Harwich, but both buildings have a plan to improve the playgrounds. And over the summer and into September, I think we'll be rolling out the development of that. And that's an exciting kind of a joint effort, even though it's in separate communities. I have to say with great gratitude to the parent representatives, Anna Murphy, who's a parent of a second and a fourth grade student, Meredith Langeli, who's a parent of a second and a fourth grade student in our school, and actually you heard from her daughter, Annalise, one of our student representatives, and Kate Carey, who's a parent of a first and a third grade parent in our school, and the two teacher representatives, Sarah Eidman, our media library specialist, and Georgia Faye Smith, who comprised of our school council this year. We will be working very hard over the summer to get a community member at large, and Ms. Murphy, though she was finishing a third-year term in a very short period of time, may reapply, or we have a couple other candidates that we're interested in. We're open to the election process in September, so we'll try to slowly integrate the staff and the parents. So with their efforts and then my great gratitude for their due diligence in going through this with a fine-tuned comb, I present to you our Harwich Elementary School plan.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Robin got all the questions. She answered them all real well, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is Chatham Elementary Handbook. Dr. Millen. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Robin Millen, the principal at Chatham Elementary School. In your packet, you should have received a copy of the updated 2016-2017 our student parent handbook. There aren't very many changes. I also sent along a memo. I apologize on the memo, though. When we were trying to format pages and things like that, we were having lots of difficulty. So we are still working on that, but I did itemize the changes. Most of them are just technical. Changes of school year, changes of your board, names, changes of some of our staff that has transitioned through the year. We did think it was important to add the inclusion of the new cafeteria policy in the handbook. Not all of our policies are listed in our handbook, but that is, we have several that we think are most pertinent to our families. So, and then we also direct the families on the website where all the policies are. But that one we thought was important for our families to have, so we added that. I updated my letter to the families. That's new. And then on the last page on the appendix is a signature page that is just an updated form that we're using now. So we updated that. That's the only real changes. And I think that is it. And, and the contact names for the different titles with Joan Goggin leaving and some of the other people leaving and have left in the year. We updated that as well. So no other changes.
So other than the change you just mentioned, it's the same as previous year?
It is. But, we want to reformat it a little bit, but none of the content will change. I'm trying to put the things that are most important in pages 1 through 10 instead of on 65. Besides that.
Any questions or comments? None. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is Chromebooks for the middle school.
I'm just,
sorry.
well, Mr. Wilson will do the presentation. I just want to just set the context here. Principal Wilson wants to discuss a direction that we would like to head that you very briefly heard as he was presenting the middle school improvement plan, and what, at least from my standpoint, is I'd like the finance subcommittee of the school committee to gather together between now and the next school committee meeting to sort of react to this and look at how we can best as a school district look at implementing this notion. So kind of preface it there.
Good evening, school committee. I'm Mark Wilson, principal of Monomoy Middle School. We've been discussing real quick the school improvement plan. A couple of weeks ago, you approved the Monomoy Middle School improvement plan. I'm going to send you one page from that school improvement plan that gives you some of the details that we touched on a few weeks ago. So you just have that in front of you as I go through the presentation. So one of the things we would like to do, and I'm going to change the name. I'm not going to call this a one-to-one initiative. I'm going to call it a one-to-world initiative because it changes the focus. So this presentation is called One to World. It's a 21st century learning proposal for the middle school. And what it really does is take the school improvement plan that you have in front of you that you approved a couple weeks ago and lays out in front of you kind of the reasons why we want to have this initiative at the middle school and what the steps are, the rationale for the initiative and what the steps are to move it forward. As you see at the top of the page you have in front of you, one of our goals is to promote 21st century learning skills of collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking, including information, media, and technology literacy. So within that particular goal area, we wanted to initiate a one-to-one Chromebook initiative at the middle school. We wanted to provide our staff with some training on 21st century learning skills with a focus on those tools that are available through the Google Classroom. We wanted to embed the 21st century learning outcomes across all disciplines. This doesn't just fit in a technology course or a STEM course, it cuts across all of our disciplines. And for our students, we wanted to create activities and assessments that require them to acquire and display the 21st century skills. This is not a technology initiative. So oftentimes you'll hear, one-to-one and one-to-world, and we'll be talking about, what we're doing for technology. What this is a teaching and learning initiative. So that's why I'm phrasing it as one-to-world instead of one-to-one. There are 6 different organizations and groups looking at 21st century skills across the country. All of them agree that these 6 are among the most essential outcomes that we can have in our K-12 education for students. And notice none of them are measurable by a PARCC test or an MCAS test. We need to make sure that our students graduate with abilities to collaborate and work together effectively in teamwork. They need to have creativity and imagination. They need to be able to critically think and problem solve. They need to have a global and cultural awareness. They need to be able to develop citizenship skills and acquire a measure of social responsibility. And they need to develop literacies in information, media, and technology. What we'd like to do at the middle school is place a Google Chromebook in the hands of every middle school student to help advance those 21st century skills that I just mentioned. Why do we want to do it? We'd like to help our students voice their thoughts about their passions, explain the things they understand well, wonder about things they've just begun to understand, and share and discuss ideas with others. This is why this is not technology, this is why this is teaching and learning. And we want to help our teachers differentiate better. A Chromebook allows us, and we think about each lesson, how can we use a Chromebook and that technology to enhance the differentiation in this lesson? There's no reason that we can't share different experience with students as they move through a particular lesson. A great example of this is something called News ELA. It is a website that allows you to take any piece of text and change the reading level for the different students who are in the room. So you can take the text, get it into the engine, and then restructure it so that you can change the reading level. And the same piece of information go out to every single student in your room simultaneously. The title looks the same, the text looks the same, but the actual structure of the language is different. And that can differentiate that text for every student in the room with the push of a button. That's a huge change from what we had in the past. It's a creativity tool. How can technology allow our students to display more creativity in the lesson? Can they, rather than just create a paper, are there other things that they can do? Is there artwork that they can work with? Is there graphs and charts and tables that they can use to share what they're learning? Can they go out and get ideas off the internet to be able to use that, to be able to increase their understanding of the topic and get different access points to the information we're trying to share with them? And then one of my favorite parts is a tool for connection. How can we use the technology to connect students with current research around the globe? A good example would be in, say you're studying plate tectonics. Rather than have a textbook that was published 5-10 10 years ago or even 1 year ago, that's a static book. You can now jump instantaneously out to the Pacific Rim, and you can actually watch live as plates are moving underneath the ocean, and they are generating sound waves and pressure waves, and you actually can map that, and students can watch live what is actually happening off the coast of Oregon. So there's a huge difference when you can make that data come alive. So you can combine what is in the textbook with what's really actually happening right now on the other side of the country. So, and connect those up with research scientists and be able to have a conversation with those scientists about what's happening. And how can we use the technology to connect our students with other young adults? Could be within the classroom, could be in the other team at grade 6. So I've got a best friend sitting 3 doors down in the other ELI classroom. There's no reason I cannot connect and talk about the content with that individual. Or we can connect with other students in the state, in the nation, in the world. There's no reason. There's some great lessons out there where students in different countries are reading the same text at the same time, and they're bringing their different cultural perspectives to the same text, have them connect in a safe environment. And can we connect our students with content experts in this lesson? Get them out to the world. The Chromebook is for raising awareness, starting conversations, finding answers to student-generated questions, joining partners, changing minds, making a difference, taking informed action and driving change. That's the purpose of having a powerful tool of communication in the hands of our students. There are potential concerns whenever you put devices in the hands of kids. They do love to be able to use their devices for gaming and video. They do love them to be able to use it for Facebook or Instagram or other chat messaging. And they, on occasion, sometimes inadvertently, sometimes on purpose, access or create inappropriate content. Those things can happen. Some potential concerns for adults, and this is also a pitfall, believing that computer use or possession somehow equals higher student achievement. That's a fallacy. Putting a computer in the hands of kids, put the computer in the hands of kids. It's what they do with it that makes a difference. The lack of professional development, if we don't sustain professional development over time and how to use the tool well, then that's not a good use of our funds for equipment. And the other thing I would share is just an unrealistic timeline for shifting our instructional practices. Kind of the big highlight is, we've got a computer in every student's hand, and somehow that's going to change the culture of our practices overnight. It will not do that. We'll get the computers in the hands of kids quicker than we will change the practices. So just kind of recognize that piece, that it takes time for us to shift how we interact with students and content. One of the questions that often comes up is, why not just do a BYOD? About 80% of our students already walk into the building every day with some device that connects to the internet in their possession. And at the moment, we let them know that they shut down that device at 8 o'clock, and they can turn it on if we have a particular task we want them to engage with, but for the rest of the time, it should be off. But if you have a common device for everyone, you can have better security. We can look at the apps, the applications students are using, and/or we can grant access to the apps we want students to use. A real simple one here is an annual requirement for PARCC testing, which is a web-based assessment. MCAS 2.0 will also be a web-based assessment. So our students have to have access to a computer in order to take the statewide assessment. It doesn't matter what it is. We began our PARCC testing this year on the Tuesday after April vacation. We were incredibly efficient with our PARCC testing, and we finished on June 3rd. So every day of that stretch, with the exception of Fridays, we had students working with the Chromebooks that are available in our school. It would be extremely helpful if we had, from the perspective of just focus and even results. If you think about it, just the limited access to computers meant we had it to start in April and end in June. If every student has a computer, we can start our testing at the end of May and be done. That gives our students an entire month of additional instruction before they step into the assessment environment. Even from a practical point of view, it makes a difference in how our students perform. There's better tech support. We can have a uniform operating system for the devices and control the learning environment. We get to say where they go and where they don't go. And it's simpler troubleshooting. I love Kathy Cohen is the tech assistant in our building. She's fantastic. But even she cannot put out all of the different, keep up with all the different apps and different devices that are walking in the door every day. If our students were just BYOD, 15 or 20 different platforms that you'd have to be conversant in order to be able to get them to access the internet on a regular basis. And the last thing that helps is targeted professional development. We can focus our training and workshops on a suite of common tools that are available through the Google Chromebook, and in this case, the Google Classroom. Some of the awesome tools available through Google Classroom are primarily designed to help deal with one of the number one topics that our middle school students struggle with. In our interviewing, I think Jenny Gow talked about the interview process and some of the sort of the richness of the opportunity when she came here and interviewed. One of the questions we actually ask all of our candidates is, what is the number one challenge that middle school students struggle with, and how have you helped them address that challenge? And I've interviewed at this point probably 200 different applicants going through the middle school over time, and the top two answers: identity and organization. And the Google Chromebook is a piece to help with that organizational piece. It allows us to create a space where teachers can share announcement and assignments in a way that does not get lost. It's not lost in the handbook, the agenda book, it's not lost in the backpack. It doesn't end up with crying kids at home calling their best friend and trying to track down what the assignment was from today. They can just log in and get it, and it's always available. It gives students a way to interact with the teacher and their classmates. They can connect with each other in a secure environment. Their teacher can give them feedback on their work. It's captured, and you as moms and dads can actually look over the shoulder as a student writes a rough draft. The teacher gives the feedback, and you can give some coaching as to how that final draft can get better. It gives the students a way to electronically submit an assignment. It's in or it's not. It's easy to track. Their upcoming work is visible on a class card. You see what's coming, and you see what's unfinished, so they just color code it. Things that are upcoming are going to be due. When you're not done with it yet, you're still not done, and when you click submit, it changes to green, you're all set. So it's an easy way to visually see how students are performing on their upcoming classwork. Cost. We have a quote, competitive quote. We put this out to bid. Thanks to Jim Birchfield for kind of working this side of things. This is much, much cheaper than an iPad initiative. If you look kind of left or right at other districts, Cape and Islands and even beyond, those districts that go to one-to-one often go to iPads, which are $500, $600, $700 a piece. Chromebooks, $222.50. We need to install some operating software on that, so that allows us, when the Chromebook comes into school, it structures it so our students can only go certain places. That's $25. And then we have a repair and replacement insurance at the cost of $25. If the screen breaks, if the keyboard gets water in it, whatever, you get 2 free replacements, and then after that you'd be responsible for any repair. So the cost per student for a Chromebook with operating software and the replacement insurance is $273. We have roughly 444 students in the building, so if we were to purchase 500 of them, there's the total fee that you see there, $137,750, and that would give us 60 available for loaners as repair or replacement. So if a student did break it, they just go down to the library, drop off the broken one, pick up their repair or replacement, they're good to go. Options for the school district to consider, and this is why bringing it to the finance subcommittee will be helpful. The school could purchase these outright. So if you build it into your budget, you've got $137,050, so we purchase them and we put them in the hands of our students. We've done similar things at the moment, for our grade 8, where we've purchased Chromebooks and provided those to students at grade 8. We could phase it in, purchase it, for sake of argument, for our 5th graders. They would have them, those would move with them as they move through the middle school, and every 5th grader as they walked into the door would get that. That's a phasing purchase, so cut that total cost to a third on an annual basis. We could share the cost, work out a split arrangement where, because these devices do move between school and home, that we could ask parents to partner with us to offset the cost of that, and work those details out. Or then we could change how we think about it and make it a family purchase. Right now, every summer, and I'd say it'll be about 2 weeks before I get my first call from a parent saying, can I get the list of materials that I need to purchase for, Miss Smith's class? What color does the binder need to be? How many notebooks do I need? How many pencils do I have? And they're gonna go out every year and they're gonna make a purchase of, $35, $40 down at Staples to be able to purchase those items. So it's really a shifting of, don't buy that. Let's shift it over to what is potentially your electronic notebook. And then there's also a lease agreement so that we can work in. So you'd pay, 1/3 of the cost every year for 3 years. And at the end of it, you'd end up owning the Chromebook, buying for $1, and then it becomes the property of the family. So there's a number of different purchasing options we've looked at, and we can bring those to the school committee and the finance subcommittee for their consideration. So that's really, I guess, in a nutshell, what we want to do, why we want to do it, and how much it costs. Next steps is to meet with the finance subcommittee to discuss those different options and different proposals. And I'll be happy to answer questions you might have.
Ms. Stout?
Well, I think that was a fabulous presentation. Matter of fact, I'd love to get emailed this because I won't retain it all.
I would be happy to do that.
That when my email address is corrected, but this is very dynamic. There's a lot of stuff in here, and it explains it very well. Personally, I'd really love to have you say that email address or whatever it was, not email address, but the web address that you said changes the
News
reading
ELA.
level.
News ELA.
NEWS?
Yep.
ELA.com?
Yes.
That is something that, just that in itself makes such a huge difference. So everyone feels involved, but they're not limited by their reading level to get the content area. I'm so thrilled about that. I have a minor question on the Chromebook. Can you save information on the Chromebook? You can.
I forgot, this would be the device. We purchased some over the course of this year out of the budget, part of the technology budget for the district. It's a budget out of the middle school. The screen's a good size. It's got a called Gorilla Glass, so it's good for kind of middle school kids and how rough and tumble they are. Keyboard's nice. It's got a touchpad, and yes, you can save. You save to the cloud. So all of our students already have a Google site where they can save materials. So our students are already using some of these tools anyway. We're just not using it in every classroom. So as often is true, we have some teachers that are already very, very comfortable with this suite of tools and already communicate with kids through this medium. And then we have some staff that are on the new side of the technology, and we'd like to get them as close to being on the same.
Thanks, that's really
page as
helpful.
possible.
I love your comment up here about how we shouldn't have expectations that things will change overnight or that everybody's going to get everything in a year, but I wish we could, but it looks like a wonderful plan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Richardson?
I just had a question related to your school improvement plan and
Yes.
this. On numbers 4 and 5, you put staffing, and is that the current staff, or would you need to add additional staffing? I was wondering if you could either further define or identify what you meant by staffing.
There's two parts to that, to answer your question. One, within the existing staff, we're going to reassign some staffing within the building to be able to support this. The other, given the stabilizing and sort of little bump up in enrollment in the district, one of the things that allowed us to do is to actually add a staff member at the Monomoy Middle School. That was built into the budget for the upcoming school year. So with some flexibility with the existing staff and that additional position, we can add that in what's in the existing budget for our staffing for next year. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Ryder?
Do you have more information on the specs on the computer, like memory, for example?
Yes. I can give you the quote right from the company that gave you the...
It doesn't have to be right now, if you can get it
Okay.
to me afterwards. I'd also like a copy of the presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And I have one more question. A lot of the things that you talked about with Google Classroom, I thought that a lot of that was done through Aspen. if I'm understanding how Aspen works.
I would share with Aspen is much more static than Google Classroom in terms of being able to do the interconnectivity between students that we'd like to have that. And I think in terms of how the software works, my staff are far more comfortable and fluent in using Google Classroom at the moment for these types of teaching and learning than I would say Aspen.
I guess I was thinking more of the assignments. You could probably speak to this better than I could, Amy.
Oh, in terms of getting the assignments? Well,
But-
Christian
and other things.
uses, both Christian and Jan, but so middle and high school have been doing a fair amount with the Google Classroom. I sort of look more at Aspen as a way for them to check their grades and assignments, and the Google Classroom being more of a live, just like having a folder or a binder in your backpack and handing your paperwork into your teacher. That's sort of how the classroom works.
So
Where
it's,
the Aspen to me seems more like looking at the teacher's grade book.
okay, so there isn't overlap. You don't really see overlap between the two.
I see a great deal of potential for Google Classroom to grow to the point, because there's actually a grade book within Google Classroom where you could have that be your dynamic piece, and then for your reporting, it's just a matter of taking that and getting it into the software that allows us to generate report cards. So in my ideal world, 5 or 6 years from now, all that information just goes from Google Classroom over to whatever platform we have, whether it's Aspen or PowerSchool or whatever, and that's what we use to generate the permanent record of transcripts and student performance.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Scott?
Do you have any vision of moving textbooks onto the computer? I know
Love-
there's,
Yes, as we purchase new textbooks, they always come with a web-based subscription. So the Math and Focus purchase would automatically be something that, because it's a web-based access anyway, you would use this to be able to access your textbook. Our older textbooks, we can't really do that at the moment because it would be prohibitively expensive to go back and purchase the web-based subscriptions. But as we go through the curriculum renewal cycle, they would all be available through the web-based piece. You can't really buy a textbook anymore without having it be web-based.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a couple of questions about, the security issues. It doesn't have a hard drive or a kind of fixed memory.
Correct.
So where are the applications stored? Are they stored on the web as well?
Help me out, Jim.
The Chromebooks have a small flash drive on them to temporarily store files if you need to download something, but the primary storage for files is Google Drive. And so it's a cloud-based file storage system, basically, is what it comes down to. And the Chromebooks, when they log into their account, their Google account, it automatically connects them with their Drive account. So it's like a file storage that's automatically connected to the device, depending on who logs into it. So only one person can log in at a time, and that creates a kind of secure connection with their folder. So it's basically a cloud-based file storage system.
The reason I ask is I was wondering what the students' ability to download games or other sort of non-school related apps.
They work essentially like an iPad almost at this point. Everything's done through apps on them, so you can't install any kind of software on these. And you can only go to they call it the web store, which is kind of like the app store if you're an Apple user. And you can get an app that will act as a software program, but it's not actually installed on the device. So in other words, they couldn't really go and download like a full game like they might on their PS3 or something like that. But it doesn't mean that they couldn't find games in the web store and distract themselves with that kind of thing. But depending on how we want to approach it, we can limit it to only the apps that we want them to have and use. And we can say, do not allow any other kind of apps to be installed except for the ones that we've chosen. So there's a management console where we can control every device that's on our system, and we can make it as locked down as we want it or as open as we want it. It's really
it becomes like a policy decision at that point, based on the discussions that we would have with all the stakeholders.
So would it be possible to set up in such a way that, because I assume that they'll be on the students' desks for 90% of the time in the classroom, there would be a way to make sure that, you know, all these, the backs of all these computers facing the teacher, that they're not playing games on the laptop while the teachers are teaching them, right?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, a point. And really, I think what all of this is suggesting is that we sort of re-examine how we teach. And it's maybe a radical idea, but we have to sort of rethink that stand and deliver approach where the teacher stands in front of the classroom at the board and, you know, just talks to the kids. And this suggests a whole different way of approaching the learning, which is, I think, you know, a little bit more project-based, and the kids are actually creating the content as opposed to just sort of like absorbing it or looking up. So it would be required of the teacher to sort of rethink how they kind of design their classroom and how they position themselves in the environment. It may mean changing the arrangements of the desks and creating a sort of a more modular arrangement where they can sort of circulate around the room, so that it takes the focus sort of off the teacher being the center of attention all the time and actually having the kids really creating. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off.
You're doing great.
I think
We're not rookies at it. We've got 150 of these in the building now. We've been using over the course of this year to have students access and experience different web-based learning challenges we'd like them to have taken under their wing. And I'm in pretty good shape to know that if students are misusing it, they're going to get sent to me or to my assistant principal. And over the course of the year, we did not have any referrals down to students' misuse of the Chromebooks for jumping on any other inappropriate websites. So I would say at the moment, we're even without some of the additional controls in the learning software, we're in pretty good shape about being attentive to what the kids are doing in class.
One other security type question. Would there be a way for the teachers to access the terminals, or what they're not called that, I suppose, I'm thinking of the language labs that we had as kids, where you had the headphones on and you were speaking the language that they were told, that the teacher could hear you and could give you instant feedback, you know, and that's the only analogy I can think of. Would there be the ability of the teacher to be able to oversee what the students are doing, both in the classroom and potentially at home, to provide feedback?
Yeah, as Mark says, there's an app for that. There's a program called Go Guardian that we've been looking at, and it really does exactly what you're asking the question about. It allows in the classroom for the teacher to see a thumbnail picture of every single device in the room. So in fact, if they were in a position where they couldn't see what the kids were doing, they could still see what they were doing. It allows the teacher to lock down all of the devices at once to make the screen go black if they need to deliver some instruction. Gives them full control over every device in the room, which is nice. But of course, that costs a yearly fee. But it's a powerful tool, and it also allows us to set security settings for when they go home. So the device, when they take it home and join their own network, it doesn't kind of eliminate all of the controls that we've put on it, so it maintains it even when they're at home. So yes. Yeah.
Mr. Russell.
Mark, a couple of questions. I think it's a natural concept move from the progression of the high school. That being said, my concern is I think we need an app to pay for it. My concern is, and I'd be interested to have a follow-up finance subcommittee meeting to see if we can really stretch ourselves, because my initial thought is I think the school department should pay for it, just like we did for the high school. So the idea of a fifth grader at the end of his seventh grade year paying about $850 in a lease.
223 is the total, 272 is the total price.
I feel so much better. Matter of fact, I feel $600 better. So it's 273.50. So it's not a third.
Yeah. So if you lease
that notwithstanding, for a fifth grader to pay the $230 and the ninth grader to pay $0, to me, there's a solution in between. And maybe we can find that, because I I can see the issue that if we're providing this tool for the 8th through 12th graders, there's a lot of why nots. And I don't have, the answer is $137,000 that we find in our own budget and have 5th grade either in a phase-in or what, make good if we think it's that a valuable program. So that's my initial thought, but it's really first blush. So thanks for the info.
Sure.
I was just wondering if there was any additional cost for the cloud storage, or is that included?
That's included.
Okay.
Ryder.
What's your backup for the cloud storage?
More cloud storage, right?
That also would require a third-party vendor, so it'd be Backupify is one of the better services that works, as a adjunct to the Google Cloud Drive.
So is that something that you've already determined or you're looking into?
Well, with the students, you don't really, there's no requirement to back up any of their stuff, and we've yet to lose anything in Drive.
Yeah, but
It's pretty safe.
anything that's out there can be hacked. Any servers can fail. And the backup servers can fail. I mean, I'd hate to lose student data or have them not have the access, especially if every student would be using it at some point. So that's why I was asking about backups.
Sure, I mean, if we want to pay for the backup, we can. It's just a matter of kind of weighing is Google going to go down, or, are they not? And how much can we sort of rely on them to keep everything up and running and not lose stuff? Or do we want to, put out the extra money for the backup? It's kind of that would be a cost factor that we'd have to weigh.
Okay, because it is a risk.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. There is no 100% guarantee that, something won't get lost. But,
Do they have USB ports? I mean, could a student put a thumb drive in, and could they be taught to back up their own stuff, which is something we should all learn to do?
Oh, sure, yeah, you can always, whatever's in your drive, you can download it and back it up on a different device or a different storage system. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, good question.
Anyone else? Ms. Scott?
I just want to make a comment that I hadn't looked at Becca's Google Drive, and every time she'd come in with a project, and then I happened to see how many projects that they're actually doing over the course of the year that I was not aware of because they're doing them all at school. She'd come home and she'd have to work on a project here and there, and so I just think it's a great idea to have them continue that. Things that you're not aware of what they're actually doing at school, because it's all at school, and you don't.
I think you'd probably be astonished how much of this is already underway, even without this conversation
More eloquently
about.
said than what I was saying. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, what sort of a timeline were you hoping for here?
I mean, the unrealistic one that I put here that says by September. I think the timeline is really, what we need to do it well. I mean, I put a timeline on here because I need to give you a deadline on it. But, I don't know when the finance subcommittee meets next, but it would be nice to be able to have some conversations over the summer and be able to decide. We'd like to by January 1st, get to the point where we know what we're doing in terms of whether building it into the budget and doing it from that perspective, or we're doing a cost-sharing partnerships on getting that information out to families.
If you would, in fact, send to the entire school committee, or
No, of course.
through our secretary, the presentation, because I would imagine that even after you've spoken to the finance subcommittee, I'm going to assume there's going to be a lot more questions from members of the school committee, since we're just hearing it tonight for the first time. So I would anticipate wanting to have this on the agenda again over the summer.
Sure.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sounds really cool. Fiscal 2016 monthly financial report from Ms. Izernio.
Katie Isernio, Business Manager. I'd like to say this is our last school committee of the fiscal meeting of the fiscal year. It's hard to believe, but we will be having our July 14th meeting. Will be really the final, FY16 meeting. Then there will be some action items of some budget transfers and some information that we will have to vote on and to close out the fiscal year. It's amazing that it's another year gone by. So in your packets that was sent, I think, prior to the last meeting were financials through May. And that's what I put them up on a PDF, excuse me. Excuse me, Jim, how do I get rid of the top? Is that... Can I have it full screen, please? Thank you. Okay, yeah, that's good. So what I wanted to do was just put all of the information up on the screen, on a PDF file, to kind of just as a reminder to everybody what the packet contains and how thorough the information is. And this is the date, it's for all intents and purposes, the date is all of the financials through May 31st, but there was just something that was posted on June 3rd, so I ran the report on June 3rd. So this first page shows all of the revenues that we receive and how it's budgeted by each account. So it takes us down to the total general fund budget, and then as you know, we are using $600,000 of E&D to support this budget. And as of the end of May, all of the assessments have been received except for Chatham's, which we've already received in June. So we trade off the months that the assessments are sent to the district. And as you can see, and as we presented in our budget presentations, the majority of the funds that we do get for revenues for the supporting the district are through the two assessments. And the monies that we are still awaiting down at the bottom here are the last payment of Chapter 70 monies and our regional transportation money, as well as the charter school reimbursements. And it's always tricky at the end of the year, except for the Chapter 70, but the charter school and the regional transportation number can change, and sometimes it's good, to the plus, and sometimes it's to the minus. Most times it's a positive result for the regional transportation. So that's what is in your packet every month is the budgeted amount. So if you look at the top columns, it's your budgeted amount, the range to date, and I ran that range from July 1st through June 3rd. That gives us the year to date, the uncollected balance, and then the percent remaining. And that's what, I present, and I give that to the superintendent every month. Any questions on that so far?
The miscellaneous revenue is extremely behind in terms of the amount budgeted and the amount received. Is that?
If you recall, at the time when we did the FY16 budget, there was some discussion and some hope of a tuition relationship that was going to happen, that was going to be coming to the district, that did not happen. But that was after the budget was set. So I've been paying attention all year, knowing that I had to have that make up that difference and not have our expenditures go over by that amount.
So we don't anticipate that 94% is probably going to stay 94%.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
So this page, this is, as you recall, this is how we vote our budget. We vote it by cost centers, and we follow the Department of Ed's chart of accounts, and each account has a meaning. 1,000s are your administrative expenditures, 2,000s are your instructional expenditures, 3,000 are student-related expenditures, including transportation, 4,000 operations and maintenance, 5,000 are the fixed charges, and that includes all of our health insurance, benefits, building insurance, all of those big ticket items. The capital, 7,000, the debt and programs with other districts in the 9,000s, tuition. So that's where all of our tuitions for special ed, as well as our tuitions for school choice and charter schools. So that's how we vote our budget, and then so as you can see, we have a unencumbered unexpended balance at the end of May of $372,000, just over 1% of the budget remaining at that time. Again, remembering that we're anticipating a revenue shortfall that we knew right from the beginning of the year. And then there are some things at the end of the year that we, as I think I mentioned at the last meeting, there's some things we don't encumber, so we have funds encumbered, some substitutes, and then at the end of the year, there's always these invoices that just come up, you know, in just year-end sorts of things. And I think I ballparked it that I was hoping that it would be about $250,000 perhaps by the end of at the end of this school year, but it still remains to be seen. We'll have a definitely more firm number at the next meeting. So what also is in your packet, so I just want to refresh your memory about what comes in that packet each month. So what we just looked at is a summary for the whole district, and then what I also provide to you in behind is by that same category for each school. So you can look at instructional at Chatham Elementary, Howard Elementary, the middle school, and the high school, and then coming down to the high school, then district-wide. And so then this information is what gets collapsed to that summary page at the front. And then behind that, again, let me make this large. Thank you. Can we make it a little bit bigger? Thank you. So then behind this is by each building, each school, more line item detail behind it. So we have the summary by the function code of the Department of Ed, and then this is just the more detailed line item budget that we show the general ledger budget range to date, year to date. Again, I ran them both the same, and then the balance, and then the encumbrances, and then we look through to see where potential budget transfers might be. And so then this is the detail that, you know, the principals are aware of, and that we go through, I think I switched, by each building. So I think it's important, and then at the end, we add in what we charge using the school choice funds and the circuit breaker funds, so we have a total picture of the total expenditures for the whole district that then tie back to the revenues that we report at the beginning. So I just thought it would be helpful, I think, for Donna being new, and then for just kind of a reminder to everybody of what the content is of everything that you get in your packets from us at central office. And as you recall, in this current year's budget, we need to pay for the retirement incentive that we offered last year. So that will be prompting some budget transfers at the next school committee meeting. So I don't know if anyone had any questions.
Any questions? Is this is this report posted on our website?
No, it could be though.
It'd be a good idea.
Yep.
We've gotten a lot of credit for being transparent with the different, select boards and finance committees. So it'd be nice to be able to say that these are readily available.
And what's really nice is this report, this is our financial software, it's now called Infinite Visions, it was Budget Sense. And this same report, you just run it a different way, that's where when we're doing the budget, we get all the detail for the budgeting. It's just running asking for it a little differently. So it all pulls in, so it's pulling all off of the same live data, which is very helpful.
Any questions or concerns? All set?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Regional Agreement Review Workshop. As many of you know, or may or may not know, the regional agreement provides that the regional agreement will be reviewed every 5 years. And so that would take us to to the coming fiscal year as the year by which we're supposed to review the regional agreement. It's obviously not just something the school committee would do, it's something that the towns themselves have the right to do since they're the ones who signed it. But we need to begin that process so that we can make recommendations to the two towns, seek input from the two towns. And it's a process we need to get underway as soon as possible. So what we need to do is to discuss how soon we want to set up an initial workshop to begin to review the agreement ourselves and provide a process by which we can seek information from various towns. Anybody have any thoughts or comments? Sharon, Ms. Stout.
In August, we only have one school committee meeting, and that's near the end of the month. So my suggestion is that the earlier part of the month or some other time that month we do that.
Yeah, in addition to the review of the regional agreement, which is required by the regional agreement, there's been some discussion amongst ourselves about doing a review of our own activities, so much as we evaluate the superintendent. So, we're going to have these are two things that we haven't done in the past that are going to add to our already busy agenda over the coming year. So I bring that up in the event that we might want to consider, as much as we enjoy only having one meeting for July and August, that may be difficult. Mr. Duvall.
August is hard because a lot of people take vacation.
You take a vacation, Mr. Duvall?
I am. I know you don't get vacations, but that makes it difficult to schedule during the summertime.
Ms. Middleton.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we met, when the evaluation subcommittee met, and this will come up when I'm sort of jumping the gun on the subcommittee piece, but I thought we talked about proposing a second meeting in August to work out goals. Am I right?
Ms. Scott is shaking her head. Is that?
We did, and then it was reminded by our lovely secretary that we only had one meeting scheduled for August. So we might have to adjust. So maybe we can add that meeting back in August.
Ms. Stout.
When we are having our workshop, how many hours will that take?
It's a fair question. I don't know the answer.
Well, I was just wondering if we could do an add-on.
Do what?
Do an add-on maybe, so when we're already there for a meeting, we just take more hours or something rather than another day. Just a thought.
Well, obviously our ability to schedule a meeting is our ability to schedule it at any time. So the only issue is as Steve said, as Steve points out, people do take vacations. So I think it's worth opening the discussion, not necessarily solving the problem tonight, but at least seeing what the available options are for other meetings. Mr. Ball.
Maybe the first thing we should do is send in everybody a copy of what the current agreement is so we can all become familiar with it again, because I certainly haven't looked at mine in 5 years.
Yeah, well, it was recently re-added to our website, so it is on the website. Can certainly get you a copy as well.
Can we, just email the?
Absolutely. So, nobody wants to have a second meeting in August. I sure don't, but we can discuss it at our next meeting. But be aware that we have a lot to do, and then when the school year starts, we'll have all of our regular lots of things to do. So, just wanted to at least bring it up as a topic so that you're thinking about it, and perhaps at our next meeting, I imagine everybody's vacation schedules have gelled, so maybe we can discuss it next time. Anybody have any thoughts or concerns about the regional agreement at this point? Ms. Scott?
Do you know of what other committees have done to review theirs? I mean,
You
is
mean
it?
what other town committees?
Yeah,
No.
well, other school
No.
committees.
Other school committees in other districts?
Mhm.
I don't.
It'd be
No.
interesting, upon first thought, I would think that maybe a subcommittee would be somebody to look at it to say, these are the issues that we might want to bring up to change. You know what I'm saying? Instead of doing.
I talked to Mr. Carpenter about that, but I was actually kind of thinking about it the other way, that perhaps the school committee as a whole should come up with sort of policy questions or things that they'd like to see changed, and then the subcommittee or subcommittees could work on how that would be accomplished.
Okay.
And I mean, we already, we can already foresee some issues. I think we've discussed in the past the fact that the regional agreement is either not entirely clear or, might need to be adjusted in terms of how we're going to pay for certain capital expenditures in the future, which only involve one town's elementary school, for example. That's might be something that we need to talk about. I imagine there's going to be, I think we'll come up with a few things, and I would imagine by now that the other committees in town will, or by the time we bring it up as a topic. Mr. Russell.
Suggestion, following up with Steve, at our next regularly scheduled meeting, why couldn't we consider our superintendent and the chair to review the document in addition to emailing to us, and then put it on the agenda for 10 minutes for an overview of the document so the public can, those who are listening can pick up the gist of the agreement, and we at that time as a committee of the whole can listen and raise some questions because we would have read it, but also we'd have a public hearing on it for 10 or 15 minutes. And then from that point, we can arrange for a meeting to follow up on that.
That's actually fairly easy to do because a significant portion of the regional agreement is now no longer applicable. Certain portions of it involve the interim school committee arrangements, so a number of sections have become obsolete. So it wouldn't take too long to summarize the remaining sections. So I think that's a great idea. We can definitely do that. Anybody else? So we'll put that on the agenda for the next time to discuss. Essentially, everybody will have the regional agreement between now and next meeting, and we'll discuss the agreement itself as suggested by Mr. Russell, and also talk about whether we want to try to set up a workshop in the summer or perhaps in September or early fall. Ms. Ryder.
I take vacation in September, not August,
Well,
if I take one.
You take the whole month?
Yeah, no.
We'll figure it out.
No.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report.
I think there's subcommittee.
Well, I thought subcommittee reports were going to be on the agenda.
Yeah, I think we'll have subcommittee reports now.
Subcommittee reports first?
Yeah.
Okay, so the superintendent evaluation subcommittee met, and in your packet is a very nice envelope. And in that envelope are some directions and some documents. And what we need to try to do is get Mr. Carpenter's superintendent evaluation completed, hopefully by this summer, is our goal. So if you could pull out your envelope, and the first sheet of paper is kind of a summary of what we have, what we received, and what we need to do. The goal that the Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee has set is we would like to be able to have the evaluation submitted to Mr. Widegren by July 7th, which is in 2 weeks. That way, at our July 14th meeting, we can have our public discussion on the evaluation, and then that would lead to our August meeting to be able to vote on the evaluation. In your packet, in the envelope, are 3 different documents. The one that's the most important is the end of cycle summative evaluation report for the superintendent. This is the one that actually needs to be completed, and we're going to ask that the entire thing gets turned in to Mr. Widegren. So whatever you fill out, you're going to send in that whole thing in the nice envelope so that it's nice and easy to get to him. And if we remember, we're going to use some of the other documents that were included to come up with that evaluation. So what I tried to do is I just kind of helped me organize things to write down all that we've received. So in the packet is the end of cycle summative evaluation report. There's also the superintendent's performance goals in there with Mr. Carpenter's self-evaluation on there. And also is the Massachusetts model system, which is the rubric, with again including Mr. Carpenter's self-evaluation and also his reflections. And last meeting, we received the administrative team's progress on the district goals. So that was in our packets at the last meeting, so that you can use as well. And then what we discussed at the meeting was to have all of these documents also emailed. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Our lovely secretary put them all on a thumb drive for us. They're not emailed because they're so large. So all of those documents are on the thumb drive. And in addition to that is Mr. Carpenter's binder that's evidence that's in his office if you want to go to look at, to reference, or you can use the thumb drive. And then just some other little notes, mainly for Ms. Richardson, okay, since it's their first time, is that if you have any questions about the evaluation process, I gave that to Brian. And then also to contact Mr. Carpenter if you have any questions on any of his self-evaluations. And to also remember that this that you're turning in is a public document so that the public can access it at any time. And then also what we have always done in the past is that at the public presentation of the evaluation, we've given a short statement about our evaluation and what our evaluation was, and then a couple of comments that we might have included in our evaluation. Did I forget anything?
No, that's really great.
Okay.
As a new member, I'm not sure I feel qualified to fill this out. How does that work?
Well, it's up to you. I understand, and I would certainly understand if you choose not to do it under the circumstances, but any input that you want to provide is certainly welcome.
Okay.
I know you haven't been a member that long, but I know you've also attended meetings, and you also have all the materials. So any input you want to provide is up to you. Ms. Stout.
The only problem I have is the timing. This is my vacation till this time. And so if we could postpone it to do the next time would be easy, but to get to do this during when I'm on vacation would be difficult.
Well, I'd say that issue was directed at the superintendent evaluation subcommittee. Anybody on the subcommittee want to comment on our schedule?
You want to go?
Sure. We talked about that actually, and the thinking was just that we had fallen so far behind in last year's evaluation, and one of the goals for the evaluation subcommittee, even last year, was to get things back on track. And so this seemed like the only way to do it was in this kind of crunch period.
Mr. Chair, just to follow up, maybe I'm also a member of the subcommittee, and I appreciate Sharon that point. I'm going on a 2-week vacation myself, so I plan to fill it out before I leave.
Ms. Stout.
If we had known about this or gotten it like a week or two ago, there wouldn't be any problem. It's just to spring it on us tonight and have it due next time. That's the difficulty.
Well, we policy of majority rules, so are you proposing to make a motion to change the proposed schedule of the superintendent evaluation subcommittee?
I would like to move that whenever we are to do the superintendent's evaluation, that we're given more than 2 weeks to do it.
Is there a second to that motion? I don't hear a second, so the motion doesn't carry. Ms. Scott?
Also, just to follow up, something that we discussed, and it kind of falls into play, that if we don't have it prior to our next meeting, that means the initial discussion wouldn't be until the end of August meeting, which means we wouldn't be able to vote on it until the September meeting, which would then put us already into the 2016-2017 school year. So what we're trying to do is to get it into the timeline of the 2015-2016. And I understand, I don't have vacation, but it's summertime and it is a challenge. And we're trying to, like Amy said, get everything back on track. And one of the hopes is that when school starts in September, we can have a start of the school committee goals, which would lead into the superintendent goals, which would then lead into the evaluation cycle being on track. So just a little bit more of a discussion that we had at the subcommittee meeting.
Ms. Stout?
So I would like to move that after this, since we can't go back, which is a problem for me to get this done well, and maybe somebody else or maybe not, that we, for future years, make sure we have more than the 2 weeks to get this done. And so in the event that somebody's got something like a vacation or an emergency, that they have time to do that.
Ms. Middleton?
Maybe that can be included on that schedule that you created for the school committee meetings, and that would drive us to get that done in a timely manner if it were actually scheduled out.
That's a good idea. Ms. Ryder?
I think that's a great idea. The deadline here is July 7th. Is there any way just to move that a few days? Is that possible? I mean, maybe that would help?
That would help.
Ms. Scott?
That's just up to, that's up to you.
Back to me, isn't it?
Yes. So we're trying to get the paperwork back to Brian so that he can meet with Mr. Carpenter before he comes up with the final, before it's presented at the meeting.
Ms. Ryder?
So you can culminate it all.
That's why I was asking about the date. I didn't know exactly what July 7th meant. So, if there was a little bit of leeway, maybe.
Mr. Russell?
I think the subcommittee spent about 2.5 hours last week trying to be as fair as we could to try to represent all 8 of us. And it's probably impossible to make certain every date is, but that was just a reasonable time, we thought, under the circumstances, what we've done for the last year and a half with the superintendent's evaluation. We were chasing our tails to have this thing finally catch up with us. So I left the meeting late last week, feeling July 7th was a reasonable time to spend a couple of hours reviewing this, writing down our decisions and turning it in. So we can probably at a general meeting here start to say the 8th or the 9th, the 5th, the 10th, but at some point I think the subcommittee made a reasonable attempt to make certain it was fair and equitable.
Mr. Law?
Last year, we got put off, and I made the statement that we were going to start the process early. Everybody knew that this process was starting in May, and my goal at that time was to have it done by this meeting. And it's 2 hours of time. The superintendent deserves that 2 hours of time for us to do his evaluation on a timely basis, and I just think that we just need to move forward.
Ms. Ryder?
I would just say that, for me, it was more than 2 hours of time. It was considerably more, that's all. I'm just asking if it's possible for a few days to accommodate somebody who's on vacation during that time. That's all I'm asking. The rest of it, fine. I'll make sure to get it done, but I guess it's up to you, so.
Well, I'd like to try to stick to it as best we can. It's a part of the process. There's things that have to happen in between the 7th and the 14th. A fair amount of work that has to be done. I'd like to stick to it. I do have some good news. When we actually have the meeting to discuss it publicly, I'm going to propose to limit the statements fairly severely to no more than a couple of minutes, because everyone will have their comments written down, and your comments will be public record. They'll be distributed to all of us so that all of us are aware of what your comments are. So it's not really a situation where we need to, as we've done in previous years, spend a long time essentially reading the comments that we've made in writing. So I'm going to be asking people to really, for the public discussion, really limit your discussion to a couple of minutes and hit the highlights of your. So the good news is the meeting won't take that long. Any other comments, concerns regarding that? I think we'll stick to it as best we can. Are there any other subcommittee reports? Are you all set, Ms. Scott, on that?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Last comments by anyone else on the subcommittee? Are there any other subcommittee reports? Ms. Stout?
Not a subcommittee report, but can we, is this an appropriate time to bring up an addition to this subcommittee list?
Absolutely.
So I had mentioned that by law we need to have a representative or representatives, so it would be a liaison or liaisons or subcommittee for the wellness committee. And I would like to be on the subcommittee or liaison with the background I have.
Mr. Carpenter, do you have any input into the wellness committee? I'm not sure I can remember exactly what that is and what it who it consists of and what the purpose of it is.
Not
to put you on the spot. I'll put you on the spot.
I'm just trying to think who all has been on it. I think it tends to be a pretty broad-based group that includes teachers, cafeteria, I think potentially folks in the business, because it does touch on a lot of different areas, and at least part of our wellness policy also it involves food, food, physical environment, physical activity. So
Counselors and nurses.
yeah.
Ms. Ryder?
This is something that came up on the mask listserv recently, so that's all that I know about it, but it seems that it's a federal requirement and has to meet 4 times a year, and it does need to have someone from the school committee on it, as well as a lot of different people from different areas, as Scott has said and Sharon said, a little bit of, explained a little bit, but we could look into it more.
Well, that's why I asked for a summary in case there were any other members who weren't familiar with it and who wanted to volunteer, as Sharon has done. I know, Sharon, you mentioned to me that you've done the research into it already and have a pretty good understanding and grasp of what it is they consist of.
I was when I worked in the Chatham schools, I was on that committee for many years. And that's part of my interest, having been a school counselor and now in private practice. But so I just have an interest. I actually wouldn't have thought about it except it came up on the listserv.
Okay. Are there any other members who want to speak on either themselves or someone else being liaison to that? If the statute doesn't require that there be a member from the school committee, then it seems like a liaison would be sufficient. We can change that if necessary.
You're a lawyer. I can get the law to you.
I am a lawyer. That's right.
Then you'll be able to tell us.
But in the meantime, Sharon.
It requires a member or members, or I believe. Did you read that? So it doesn't have to be just one.
Right. Well, I hereby appoint Sharon Stout as our current liaison to the Wellness Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent choice.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good choice.
Any other subcommittee information? Now that it's been brought up about subcommittee assignments, over the course of today, I had sent out the, what was our understanding as to the subcommittee assignments, and which was modified at the request of certain people. And then at the end of the day, and in fact, in your packet, is what I believe to be the final result of that. Does anybody have any concerns, questions, or comments on the subcommittee assignments? One of the things we need to talk about is, not necessarily at this moment, but one of the things we need to talk about is perhaps going forward to come up with some job descriptions in terms of getting an idea of exactly what these things consist of and what's expected of them. I look at a lot of these committees as being, these subcommittees as being an opportunity for the people on them to bring to us topics that they think are relevant into their various things. But I would invite any subcommittees who want to sort of formulate an outline of what they anticipate their job descriptions would be. It would be very helpful going forward. Scott won't mind me bringing this up, but she has suggested to me that at some point we consider adopting a school committee handbook for ourselves and future generations of school committee members. And any subcommittees that want to start to formulate an outline of what they do would be something that would be very valuable for that purpose. Future subcommittee. Ms. Ryder.
I think all of what you said is a great idea.
Thank you. Now, you'll notice that we also have a blank space in our subcommittee assignments. We do need somebody to volunteer to be the Cape Cod Collaborative Liaison. The next meeting is not until September. And it is a commitment of one meeting per month. The meeting is the second Wednesday of every month. It used to be just before our meeting, but it's no longer before our meeting. It's from approximately 5 o'clock to 6:30. And as I mentioned, so we are pretty much required in order to maintain our membership in the Cape Cod Collaborative. We are required to have a liaison do that. So yes, between now and the meeting, have a volunteer. Need to go army way volunteering. Ask someone to take one step forward and then no one else to take one step backwards. And run hat. One including myself. I've done it for 2 years. Well, Mr. Duvall hasn't done it for about 9 years. No, 5. 5, that's how. Not hearing any volunteers, we'll move on to the next topic. While we're doing housekeeping, you'll notice also in the packet there's a new meeting schedule, which includes our modification of our meeting nights, Thursdays, and also the start time at 6:30 with the exception of the MASC governance workshop of July 21st, which is going to be 6 o'clock. If anybody has any questions or concerns or proposed changes in the proposed meeting schedule, that's obviously going to be fleshed out more in terms of topics that we'll be doing. But if anybody has any thoughts on the dates, the end of the start time. Ryder.
Just wanted to say thank you for my colleagues who do nothing for my birthday. Thank you. It's really very and only question
The last one on June 22nd, is that our last week of school next year? Yeah. Perhaps we could change that one this year. Several of us had a conflict or something else going on earlier this evening.
We can propose to change now, or we can wait till it gets closer. If you want to make a motion for that, that's more directly, more specifically. Mr. Duvall.
I think that's one we should postpone because our change may need to be changed depending upon snow days. When the last day of school is and all the obligations that go along with it.
But doesn't it generally fall in the same week, even, well, I mean, I don't know what.
No,
days it was,
last year
but
was next week.
Oh, it was falling. Could we leave
I
that
happen to know we're gonna have a lot of snow.
Okay.
Hopefully not. Heard from Ms. Stout.
My only concern is that I see for November and December, if there's only one schedule, then I'm concerned that we may need another one of these, so one of those.
It's likely that meetings will get added at that time of year, but there, you know, that's the holiday, and that's what the problem is, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So usually the second Thursday of the month, in fact, I guarantee that one of those Thursdays will be Thanksgiving. Right. November.
So, I'm wondering if you could put tentatively one, like, where there's 2 weeks speakers within a row, and then if we don't need it, take it out. And that way there's a plan.
Right.
I think one of our policies says that we'll set up a meeting schedule for the entire year, so maybe we should have a placeholder in that. I don't know, Ryder, do you know for sure? I thought I read it in one of the policies. I thought you needed to know because you know some level. Okay.
It's a good idea, either way. Whether it's a strict policy or, I mean, it certainly helps people plan their vacations and lives and working lives. So I would support, if anybody wants to propose, maybe have the calendar close enough to want to propose a specific additional, we can always take it off. But at least if it's on there, people won't plan somewhere else.
I just thought having it as a kind of placeholder, even if it just said placeholder.
Great idea. You want to
TBD.
make a specific proposal? Okay.
The clarification between the calendars on the website and Thursday is Thanksgiving, and in December, the fourth Thursday is the 22nd of December. So we traditionally built the calendars with only one meeting in November and December. It's been the way because of the holidays. That's the way that it's done over the years, but it's
No.
I would propose that meeting be December 1st.
Is it December 8th meeting or then an additional meeting?
No, if there was an additional meeting.
I like December 1st, and the alternative I would say would be November 17th, because either of those two will work. I only was looking at the 17th because, of course, you get Christmas, it makes it difficult for people. But even on time.
So how about December 1st for an additional meeting that basically would fit between the two periods, and instead of having 2 meetings in November and 2 meetings in December, we'll have one additional meeting. That would work? Work for everybody? Anybody else regarding the schedule or the start time? Okay. No, move on. Thank you. Administrative Director, Mr. Carpenter, additional superintendent report.
Sure. I guess I'd like to start by inviting Stephen Cass and some students to come out from behind the green curtain, so to speak.
I thought we were paying no attention to
So as I mentioned at our last school committee meeting, tonight is our first time we are hopefully live broadcasting. I hope everything's going well, and so we have students that from now on will be coming to film our school committee meetings live on camera. So I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Patrick McGill. I'm a freshman and a sophomore. I'm Jack Gray, also Patrick's a sophomore.
And while Mr. Cass is here, I just want to make just a public appreciation of the tremendous work that Steve's done this year. I think that, this meeting started off with this gal doing a little public comment and talking about, over 2 years, how one goes from 20 to 91. And I think really, in terms of Mr. Cass, we've seen that same sort of growth. And I think both of them have been just two tremendous people to bring to this district, and to see just the wonderful growth that's happened in 1 year. Steve, I can't thank you enough for what you've been doing and just how you've enriched the building here.
It's definitely been my pleasure, and it's exciting. And just to see the students be excited about coming to a community meeting. They are. So that always helps. But just the excitement around the district and family members all over the country, even to see what the students do here is always good. Thank you very much.
Just other little things to report back on. Last Tuesday, there was a preschool meeting that was held at Cape Tech for a grant that we are part of with Dennis Charlotte and Cape Cod Collaborative. So it's really looking at how we can make preschool affordable for all in our communities, and looking sort of out of the box at possibilities of public-private partnerships. So that committee that's been working on this grant is feverishly working to get a final submittal ready by the end of this month. But it was a good conversation, and I think it's a noble thing to have. In fact, I've had two conversations with two separate school committee members in the last 3 days, just sort of mulling, what could we do to support young families and in our communities, and I think that ultimately finding ways to make preschool ideally free for our families is a great goal to strive towards. There's a lot of research out there about if we have children that have preschool experiences, that they're better ready for kindergarten and better ready for school in general, and those are things that I think it's a bigger conversation in terms of how we get there as a community or even a state, but we're at least looking locally at how can we spearhead and get some things going. So it's a great set of conversations at that meeting, and more to come out of it. We also had, I guess, I sent out some emails to both our staff and our parents, just to sort of our end of year surveys. And at the end of last year, we sent out a survey just asking parents a simple question about each of our schools. What are we doing well? What can we do better? And that feedback really became the starting point for data that we're looking at for the strategic plan, and the starting point each one of the buildings for what they were looking at as for the school improvement plan. So we've sent that survey out to parents and staff. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, 130 parents have responded, and 117 staff members, and I've sent out another reminders both to the parents this afternoon and one to the staff yesterday. So expecting to see those numbers increase. So the last little thing I wanted to share with the committee, and I just sort of promised Mr. Cass that he heard word that our meetings went until 11 o'clock at night, and we never get students to come in here and film them. So I promised him we'd get out by 9, so I'll keep it short. I just want to share with the committee some of the things that are happening. Today's the last day of school. School ended for the year today, but just because this is the last day of school doesn't mean that our buildings are sitting idle and that things aren't happening. So just some examples of things that are happening. I know many of you saw when you heard the strategic plan or school improvement plans about professional development that needs to happen. I was asking some great questions on that.
In the upcoming months, there will be 686 hours of grant-funded curriculum writing summer work that's happening. We have in July and August, we have 53 teachers that will be working in curriculum development in the areas of close reading and writing as part of what's in the strategic plan. At the middle school level, there will be science units that will be designed to fit the state standards. There's a lot of work that's happening on math and focus at the middle school level as well. There are new courses that are being written for physics. There's physics first that's happening in the 9th grade. Oceanography happening in the 8th grade, so there's time set aside for those teachers. A new Mandarin teacher will be coming in here. We'll be launching, we'll be now up to Mandarin 3. So we'll have a Mandarin 3 curriculum that's being written by the new Mandarin teacher that's coming. We have new units that are being developed at the high school, at the middle school, and ELL or ELA for grade 7, and at high school for social studies. The elementary school has a team that's working on this PBIS initiative, Positive Behavior Studies. Our high school special education team will be working on curriculum work. So we have, as we close out this month of June, we have next week, 25 of our teachers will be taking place in a research for better teaching and skillful teacher course. We have, as we move into August, we have 23 of our teachers will be in a 2-day workshop with a specialist from Math and Focus on problem-solving strategies. And we have our teacher leader department heads are going to be in a teacher leadership training to help build the capacity of our teacher leaders in supporting their peers. In terms of other things that are happening, the administrative team and I will be working with other administrators on Cape Cod and attending a conference on multi-tiered systems and supports. That's one of those sort of buzz things that showed up in the strategic plan. And for some of these, I did a little printout of some of the descriptions of things that I mentioned. So so you'll have a little blurb on multi-tiered system supports, how RTI research, responses to intervention and the positive behavior fits into a multi-tiered system. There's a little blurb on the skillful teacher course that Research for Better Teaching does. And then the other thing that we are doing this summer is we have consultants coming down in July or 2 consultants actually coming down in July to work with a team of administrators and teachers in every one of our buildings on a visions initiative. And this is a inclusiveness, diversity training to really support our schools, really embracing the differences that we have in our buildings. And I think there's a lot of things that really we see out there in the news every day on how the different things that divide us in our society, that we can really look at what makes us different, what's our strength. So we'll be having those discussions this summer as well. Other things that are happening on the facilities front. There's a lot of work that's happening in each one of the buildings this summer. We have at Chatham Elementary School, we started last year with having some of the columns out front replaced. There's some other columns that need to be replaced at Chatham Elementary School. The gym floor at Chatham Elementary School will be getting sanded down, refinished, restriped, Monomoy logos put in it as it gets refinished. The gym itself will get painted. We'll be painting the doors within Chatham Elementary School, and 2 of the classrooms will have ring replaced in it. Harwich Elementary School
There'll be some windows replaced. The gym floor at Carpenter Elementary School 2 needs to get work on. The cafeteria floor is a big project at Carpenter Elementary School where we'll be, it has been lifting in certain areas, so we'll be replacing the floor and trying to really beautify that cafeteria. Carpenter Elementary School's cafeteria is subterranean. If you compare to our other elementary schools, so it's trying to find a way to make it brighter and more vibrant, particularly because that cafeteria is also the location for a lot of our before-school programs and after-school programs. We're going to playing space. The playground needs mulch. At the middle school, just as there's column work that's being done at Sharon Elementary School, the middle school has some columns that need to get replaced. Those of you that are familiar with walking up the sort of ramp area by the library, that the rug there for the last 3 years has been frayed and getting more frayed. The rugs will be removed and there'll be carpet squares we get put down, much like in the library here, easier to replace if you have to replace sections of it. So the rugs will be fixed up there. They're currently in the later processes of dealing with the main gym floor. That has been, they've been sanding it, and they're currently starting some of their sealing and painting work on that, but they'll also be resurfacing the smaller swim gym. And there are 2 sort of bigger projects that are going to happen. That perhaps the biggest one is what used to be the middle school, Chatham Middle School's office area. So as you come in the doors and get close in to central office, the Chatham Middle School office has been sort of vacant for the last couple of years. We're going to be converting that into a larger, all those smaller spaces will be opened up into one larger conference space to be used by the building community and the administrative area, so that you can have a larger room to go and conference in. The other thing that we want to do is for one of our more intensive special needs classrooms, we want to go and have a bathroom attached to it. There isn't a bathroom, but luckily there is a drain that we want to build in stuff in town, so that there's a drain that we can go for relatively small money to create a bathroom space so that it's attached to that intensive special needs classroom. So all of that work is already in the process of playing out over the course of the summer. That's all in the budget in terms of what we had for our capital facilities costs. There are some bids associated with some of these projects. One of the things I just want to kind of put on your radar screen is the conference room bid and this special needs bathroom will be things that will be coming before you next school to be needed to take action on, because those are sort of bigger price items. That'll be it. Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Quite a bit commitment, but 9 o'clock issue. But under action items, the first one is the Monomoy Regional High School Improvement Plan. You will recall there was a presentation of the high school improvement plan at our last meeting, and it's as our policy. We received a presentation at one meeting and we do not vote on it until the next meeting. I'll entertain a motion with regard to the Monomoy Regional High School Improvement Plan. Shabbat.
I move that we accept the Monomoy Regional High School Improvement Plan as presented by Principal Whitman.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, is there any discussion or comments? Ms. Stout?
My comment on the last one about the social relationship. This isn't the fundamental figures that the Southwest and Henderson, so principal broadcast, so if he would like to look at the village equipment, so I'd like to get clear about the village, some of the competitive,
I think it's reasonable to assume that that's included in the motion as possibility. As well. Any further comments or concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Our last action item is the declaration of surplus equipment. Ms. Scott.
I would like to move for surplus from the Monomoy Regional High School Library, 400 obsolete VHS tapes and audio cassettes from 1980 to the year 2000.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Unanimous. One other housekeeping item. You also have in your packet a document which lists everyone's contact information. Is there anybody who, this would be a good time to make any changes so that we can all note them on our copies. Ms. Stout.
Yes, my email address is incorrect. It should be katechazi@gmail.com. And my phone number, this is my business phone number, so I'd rather change it to my personal phone number, which is 508-240-1572. That's my personal cell phone. Thank you.
Ms. Middleton.
Take off my home phone number because I exclusively use the cell phone now, and then you can put my work phone number, which is 508-945-0800.
Everybody got that? Mr. Russell.
Sharon's home phone, I didn't get it.
240-1572.
240-1572.
Anybody else? Any other corrections, additions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add my cell phone, 781-738-9355.
Thank you. Anyone else? Great, thank you. And do we have any need from the superintendent or any other member for an executive session? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor of adjourning to our next meeting, which, since everybody's dying on the television screen, so know when our next meeting is, will be July 14th, 2016 at 6:30. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Opposed and stay. Good night.
Oh, Harry.
Thank you.
Cell phone?
That's the category cell phone.
I was going to say that, but I